As I'm sure you already know, Yu-Gi-Oh monsters have levels. These stars serve to restrict your ability to normal summon them. Levels 1 through 4 can be normal summoned without tributing any others. 5 and 6 require 1 tribute, and 7 and higher require 2. Outside of tribute sum requirements of levels have also been used to sort of dictate the power of monsters. Lower levels usually have less attack than higher levels and are easier to summon. Still, history has shown us that this rule doesn't always apply. So today we'll be ranking all 12 levels in Yu-Gi-Oh! To decide which has the most great cards and which one has the worst. And starting at the bottom at number 12, we have the one and only level 11. Not only is this the worst level, but also the least represented one, with just 30 monsters being level 11 in the entire game. Still, with over 10,000 cards in the game, it's kind of inevitable that even this underrepresented level would have some pretty strong cards in it. Our main outliers are both Arch Nemesis Jatos and of course Arch Nemesis Protoss. There's also Infernoid Tiara, Mementolo Tetucula Combined Creation, Psychic Punisher, Ukiyo-e Punk Amazing Dragon, and the best amongst these, Nibiru the Primal Being. So obviously Protoss is incredibly strong, having been banned for a good while and for good reason, while Jatos is not as powerful, but still a really annoying card. Now raise your hand if you thought Tiara was level 12. I know that's a lot of people, but the Infernoid boss monster continues this weird naming gimmick in relation to their levels, making it a level 11 so it matches its main deck counterpart in Tiara, Source of Destruction. Combined Creation makes for the main objective Memento decks, which is currently a very viable rogue deck, but doesn't really get anything out of being level 11. Psychic Punisher is actually an amazing single monster that was most commonly summoned by Punk decks as well as Sword Soul engines, making for a hard-to-out monster that could close out a game really easily. Amazing Dragon is, as the name suggests, amazing. Summoning this card at the end of your opponent's turn is the Punk's deck's main objective, allowing you to bounce around 5 of your opponent's cards, usually ending the game on the spot. Nibiru is Nibiru. This card curbed the entire game around itself, and has made it so that most decks in the game need to have a plan for dealing with the big space rock, lest they want to lose immediately after summoning their 5th monster. And that's it. These are all the truly good level 11 monsters. After those, the bar drops radically. What else is left that can be played? Zephyrath, Trishula, Dark Lord Morningstar? Sure, those are decent, but that's it. The rest of these monsters are just not great. We have the Sophia/Tiara series of cards fitting in here, cards designed around the big boss monster of the dual terminal storyline. This gives us cards like the aforementioned Infernoid Tiara, as well as Avita, Rebuilder of Worlds, Necroza Sophia, Sophia, Goddess of Rebirth, Tiara, Source of Destruction, and Zephyrath. These are mostly not great, although they're admittedly very cool. The bad level 11s are really bad, however. Sumaha Kusanagi, the Lord of Swords? I'm sorry, who? Subterra Behemoth Speleogeist? That just sounds like a made-up card. Gate Guardian? Okay, moving on. Even if the mere existence of Nibiru makes this level a whole lot better than it could potentially be, and even if that card is a menace format after format, it's just one in a sea of mediocrity. There's also no deck that actually makes use of level 11 monsters, really not helping this level stand out as anything recognizable, earning it the bottom spot on today's list. Moving on to number 11, we have level 12. The highest regular level was very underrepresented for the majority of early Yu-Gi-Oh!, but has received a fair number of very strong cards in the past few years that move this into a very viable spot. First, let's start with the bad. And there's quite a bit of these, you best believe it. Cards like Dark Guardian, Dystopia the Despondent, Malefic Truth Dragon, Shuro the Combat Star, Subterra Behemoth Ultra Mafus, the Bestial Albalos, and Armityle the Chaos Phantasm are just some of the big turds that fill up the level 12. However, there's some actually insane cards in the level 12 category too. Both Centurion boss monsters, Centurion Legatia, and Centurion Auxilia are clearly among the great ones. Both these cards are extremely powerful, with Centurion being a very strong and popular deck. But the best card in this deck is not one of its archetype. Hot Red Dragon Arcfiend King Calamity. Yeah, we all know this guy, and not for good reasons. This level 12 Synchro has an effect where it effectively skips your opponent's turn, making them unable to activate cards and effects on the field during the turn it's summoned. Summoning it during your opponent's turn with the extremely powerful Crimson Dragon is a play way too familiar to most Yu-Gi-Oh players. Still, since its banning, the Centurion deck has decided to exploit Crimson Dragon in a different manner, summoning 2 Cosmic Blazer Dragons off of 1 normal summon. Yeah, Crimson Dragon is just that crazy, but not all is synchros in level 12 town. Surprisingly, 2 level 12 ritual monsters have plagued the nightmares of many Yu-Gi-Oh players since Drytron enjoyers decided that summoning Drytron, Mutino's Draconids, and Herald of Ultimateness was a fun way to end a game. But other than that, Cyber Darken Dragon, Odd Eyes Arcry Dragon, Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon, and Yubel, the Loving Defender of Forever, have all seen decent amounts of play and are strong cards in their own archetypes, with a lot of others being really good as well. But still, for every Geomathmech Final Sigma, there's a Subterra Behemoth Ultra Mafus, making 12 just slightly better than 11, but not by a lot. And moving on to our number 10 spot, we have a challenge. Name a main deck level 9 monster. I'll wait. Did you think of Dovulgus, Generator Boss of Iron? Yeah, I didn't think so. Level 9 is pretty devoid of good main deck monsters, although there's a few decent standouts. Cards like Hellshadow Hollow, Immortal Phoenix Gearfried, Machina Metal Cruncher, Necros Trishula, Rescue Ace Turbulence, Trias Hierarchia, as well as the entire Generator archetype, and the True Kings are all pretty alright level 9 monsters that have been played. But the vast majority of main deck level 9 monsters are underwhelming. Amaterasu, Annihilator Arcfiend, Arcjet Lightcraft, Deep Space Cruiser 9, Full Active Duplex, Jirac Titano, as well as the entire Generator archetype are all pretty awful level 9 monsters. And who could forget about Big Whale, just giving chills. Still, if we're talking about the extra deck, those are some crazy good level 9 monsters. Good synchros usually are high level, and level 9 is no exception. Cards like Blue Eye Spirit Dragon, Chiofang, Phantom of the Yangzing, Hot Red Dragon Arcfiend Abyss, Noble Knight Emperor Charles, Crocodon, Trishula, Shen, Vermilion Dragon Mech, and even XX Saber Gothams have all been amazing cards during their respective times. Funnily enough, most of these cards have been played in Virtual World, the deck that most level 9s used since pretty much ever. Indeed, this budget-friendly deck decided to make use of the 2 least common XCs and Synchro levels, 6 and 9, to take over the meta off of the wings of True King of All Calamities, a now banned rank 9 monster that could shut down all of your opponent's effects for a turn. XCs are also standouts of this level. Levitine, Generator Boss of Shadows, Phantom Fortress, Enter Blathnir, and Sacred Tree Beast Hyperiton have all been very playable and superbly strong cards. Last but not least, there's a surprising amount of good level 9 fusions. Dante, Pilgrim of the Burning Abyss, Fiendsmith's Desire, Frightfur Cruel Whale, Gemknight Master Diamond, Gold Pride Pinballer, Guardian Chimera, House Dragon Maid, Invoked Macabre, Memento Creation King, Phantom of Yubel, Sleipnir the Runic Mane, and Tearlament's Kaleidoheart have all been played in one way or another, making 9 one of the most shockingly stacked fusion levels. And sure, levels don't usually matter when it comes to fusion monsters, but it's pretty surprising seeing just one level that includes all these format-defining fusion monsters. And while yes, there is no real level 9 deck currently, and there hasn't been any close to since the Virtual World, level 9 has a pretty large number of great cards, even if it's full of unplayable stinkers. And at number 9, we have the level 10s. This level kind of falls into the same situation as level 12, where it's full of early unplayable cards, but has gotten a fair share of great newer cards over the years. However, level 10 might just be the one that feels the most bad cards so far in terms of sheer quantity. Who could forget such amazing cards like Blackwing Aurora the Northern Lights, DD Jet Iron, and fan favorite Koitsu? Yeah, there are a lot of awful level 10 monsters. Honorable mention to Cosmo Dark Planet for players theorizing off of fake leaks that it would be an amazing card that would make Cosmo even better than it already was, just to end up being, well, Cosmo Dark Planet. Another honorable mention is Yubel, which was unplayable garbage for like 20 years, and then became a tier 1 meta deck in the span of 2 packs. So shout out to Yubel enjoyers who believed on it from the beginning. But honestly, this is the point of the tier list where the good starts to really outnumber the bad. Apparently, level 10 is the sweet spot in game design where the effects are really, really powerful, while not that hard to bring out. Whereas level 9s are kind of underwhelming for the effort to bring them out, and level 11 has like no cards, level 10 hits the sweet spot of being stronger than pretty much every other level, while still being decently accessible. So take a breath, because this is a pretty long list of remarkable cards. Are you ready? Let's begin. Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, the Winged Dragon Raw Sphere Mode, Trident Dragon, Sword Soul Supreme Sovereign Changying, Prank Kids Battle Butler, Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, Koitsu, Lord of the Heavenly Prison, Machina Citadel, Eldritch the Golden Lord, Flunder Reason Empen, Bestial Dispater, Koitsu again, Chaos Angel, Apocalypse Towers, and Baron de Fleur. Still breathing? Okay, let's continue. I think I made my point. All of those cards are absolutely nuts, no question asked. Be it as generic staples or big threats in their own decks, level 10 monsters are some of the strongest you will find in the game. Still, like their levels before it, there is no proper level 10 deck, which is kind of a missed opportunity if you ask me. With 10 being a nice round number, Konami surely could find some theming to go with just the concept of the number 10. But if you've played Yu-Gi-Oh! Anytime recently, you've surely seen a fair number of level 10 monsters, specifically coming from the extra deck. Level 10 synchros were easily one of the worst in terms of quantity for the longest time. For the longest time, the only good generic level 10 synchros were Leo, the Keeper of the Sacred Tree, and like Ascension Sky Dragon, the prize card. Man, things were dire back then. Then Konami decided randomly to print a slightly better card than both of those with a Baron de Fleur. Yeah, the bar was raised quite a lot. Then they released Bestial Dispater and Chaos Angel as level 10s. And now 10 was one of the best levels to go into for synchro summoning. But back on topic, it's pretty weird how the closest thing to a level 10 deck is Infinite Track and Trains. And even then, that's barely. The rank 10 train themes has been pretty present for a good while. An Earth Machine series of cards that aim to summon Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max to then end your opponent's existence with the even longer name that is Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Juggernaut Libe. But seriously, go past that and what do you have left? Tistina? Yeah, we aren't forgetting that mess of an archetype, Konami. We're also not forgetting how you actually wanted people to summon Tistina, the divinity that defies darkness. But yeah, that pretty much speaks volumes to the strength of level 10 monsters, getting them to the number 9 spot on today's list. For the number 8 spot, we have the level 5s, the first one to only require 1 tribute. Level 5s are kind of weird in terms of power level. It's full of early garbage normal monsters like Hercules Beetle and the fan favorite Giant Turtle who feeds on flames. Most level 5 monsters released before Synchro monsters are pretty much as relevant as those two. For the first 11 years of the game, the only good level 5 monsters were like Air Knight Parshath and Cyber Dragon, both of which did not much care for their level. And while obviously extremely relevant, they aren't really in the conversation of which are the best level 5 monsters. A conversation I'm sure almost everyone has had at least once a week. Anyhow, as previously mentioned, with the introduction of Synchro monsters, being a level 5 monster became something not so bad as it was previously. Since the game had taken a big step towards acceleration, Konami saw fit to introduce a bunch of monsters that could circumvent the usual restrictions level 5s usually have. That being requiring a tribute to be summoned. Thus, we saw the release of such heavy hitters as Blackwing Sirocco the Dawn and Quick Draw Synchron. The latter is deserving of a deeper analysis, as it could be seen as the continuation of a running theme with level 5 monsters that was started by Cyber Dragon, special summoning themselves. While effects are obviously not inherent or strictly related to levels, it is weird at the amount of level 5s that have effects that special summon themselves from the hand. Other than the previous two, we have Altergeist Conquery, Cockadoodle-Doo, The Tricky, Galaxy Soldier, Link Slayer, Super Quantum Red Layer, and Solar Windjammer, among many others not really worth of mention. This trend is likely the cause of Cyber Dragon's incredible impact on release, setting the standard for the design of level 5 monsters for years to come. But 5 is not only good because of its easy to summon main deck monsters. It features one of the best extra deck lineups of all, especially with synchros, where we have the format-defining cards like Ally of Justice Catastor, Armides, Keeper of Boundaries, Denglong, First of the Yangzing, High-Speed Roy Chanbara, Ib, the World Chalice Justiciar, Nature a Beast, as well as TG Hyper Librarian, all of which were menaces during their respective eras. Since most tuner combinations will lead to higher level synchro monsters, 5 is in a weird spot, where you need a sometimes awkward level combination to access, but grants you a very big payoff in the form of the aforementioned monsters. The fusions are also worthy of mention, both El Shaddai Winda and Gemini Seraphnite being level 5s. Most importantly though, there's Tier Limits Kitkalos, one of the best monsters ever printed. But where the level 5 extra deck really shines is with its XYZ monsters. The ease of summoning a level 5 monster gave way to a very impressive toolbox that was easy to access, and was enough to justify playing a level 5 centric strategy during a good chunk of the Zexal era. Cards like Ardeus, Keeper of Armageddon, Artifact Durodangle, Constellar Pleiades, Cyber Dragon Nova, as well as Cyber Dragon Infinity, number 61 Volcanosaurus, and Wind-Up Arsenal Zenmaio fill up the rank 5 pool that could give other ranks a run for their money. While not as impressive nowadays with most of the toolbox aspect of the deck being moved to Link monsters, it cannot be understated just how impactful these cards were until the release of Duelist Alliance, and even beyond. But going past that, and since the only remotely relevant level 5 monster is Cyber Dragon, there's just no reason to place this level any higher than the number 8 spot. And moving on to our number 7 spot, we find level 6. 6 is in a weird place in the game's past, honestly. These monsters had to be stronger than the level 5 colleagues while costing the same amount of resources, but also had to be weaker than level 7s and beyond, because those costed more. This amounted to there not being a whole lot of early level 6 monsters, and those that existed kind of sucked, like Dragon Seeker or Time Eater. Except for one big, massive, powerful exception, the Monarchs. Zaborg aside, who's only level 5 for no reason, the Monarchs are easily the most relevant series of level 6 monsters that have ever existed, being meta viable since their introduction until around 2013. These powerhouses granted you a strong removal effect paired with a large body, allowing duelists to turn the tides of the game with just one summon. Bundled with these, there's also Jinzo, which while not a monarch, also fits the previous description. And who could forget the best monster of the first ever format of the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, Summon Skull. This anime star was the card you had to deal with in the very basic Yugi Kaiba format, before even Legend of Blue Eyes released, meaning you had almost no tools for dealing with a 2500 beater that only needed one tribute. But other than these few, it would take a long time until we could forget about Gap the Divine Soldier and Jazzman filling the level 6 pool. With time, the level 6 family expanded enough that we got some cards that could actually be played in a deck and call it good. Arias the Labyrinth Butler, Blackwing Samoon the Poison Wind, Dimension Shifter, Fiendsmith Engraver, Gigaplant, Magispector Unicorn Kirin, Majesty's Fiend, Mythical Beast Jackal King, Performer Pal Monkey Board, Unchained Solo Shavara, Visa Starfrost, the Virtual World Archetype, and most powerful of them all, the Bestials. These cards essentially push one of the oldest hand traps in the game, DD Crow, out of relevance for a time. While more restrictive in their targets and timing, the Bestials became instant staples in pretty much every deck of the Darkwing Blast format, especially since Tearlaments was the deck to beat by that point, and remained that way for a good while. In recent times, it seems that level 6 has become one of the most powerful levels for decks to have access to. First with Unchained, which made use of their two new cards, Unchained Solo Shayama and Unchained Solo Shavara, to access the very powerful effects of the rank 6 engine monster, DDD Wave High King Caesar. This combo alone had players clamoring for a King Caesar ban, but it was Shavara who got a limit in the end, pushing the pure Unchained deck out of relevance. Not long after, however, we got one of the most powerful engines the game has ever seen, Fiendsmith. This engine is essentially a power-crept Orcus combo, with any two monsters giving you access to it. The use of the now banned Fiendsmith Lacrima gave pretty much any deck access to a rank 6 play, be it the aforementioned King Caesar or the recently banned Beatrice Lady the Eternal. Not only that, but Lacrima's burn effect not only meant that the deck was extremely good into time, but it was also enabling a combo where Beatrice could send Angel Blue Tears to the grave to trigger its effect, allowing you to set Dimensional Barrier or Different Dimension Ground straight from your deck, ending the game in certain matchups. But out of the cards we mentioned, the only one that truly pushed level 6 above many others is no doubt Beatrice Lady the Eternal. Originally designed to be a Burning Abyss card, and it's really good in there, the card's ability to send any card from your deck to the graveyard as a quick effect meant it had a target on its head for a good while. While Fiendsmith was the straw that broke the camel's back, players had been clamoring for Beatrice to be banned for a good while, particularly since the tier limits came around. That deck could achieve a rank 6 with the ease of the Bestials and Destiny Hero Malicious, and being able to send any tier name or combo piece was superbly strong. After that, players feared that the card would be used to set up a Floodgate combo using Transaction Rollback and Ghost Meets Girl, a masterful Mayakashi Shiranui saga, but thankfully it never became relevant. All in all, level 6 had an insane turnaround, and while they were irrelevant for a good chunk of the game's history, their more recent cards are strong enough for them to get this placing.